In your mind you have capacities, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to sing. Calling occupants of interplanetary craft. Calling occupants of interplanetary most extraordinary craft.
3, 2, 1.
In the world of ufology, there are many levels with some secrets hidden so deep you may never know the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
But worldwide, there is a movement.
Are you listening?
Millions of people are awakening, connecting, and sharing their experiences. We are all spiritual souls having a human experience.
These are the forces of the universe.
The next step to disclosure starts with you. Welcome to Starseed Awakening. With Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
Hello and welcome to Starseed Awakening. Right now I'm the only host here, but we're expecting Geraldine momentarily. But just to let you know, we had snow. We actually had snow for three different days, actually. And in my side of town, we had it for 2, and the other side of town, they had it for 3. But it stayed on the ground, and it was pretty cold, and this was really unusual. I think they said something like it's been 10 years since we've had something like this. So I just thought you'd all like to know that Las Vegas and Nevada had the snow. But please do come, because I think it's going to be stopping. The weather's coming up next week. It's going to get better and better. It better because I do have my night vision tours that I do, and I have one on the 28th, so it better be warm by then, because I don't want to go in snowsuit. So, some of the things that are going to be happening, of course, is the MegaCon. The MegaCon is happening on the 24th and going till the 30th. Geraldine's going to be speaking there. I'm going to be facilitating some of the support groups that are there with a lot of other hypnotherapists and therapists. And so both of us, of course, will have our tables. So come by and say hi. And then, of course, also there is the Matrix, which is at Sedona, and a little later this I will give you both the websites of all. The other one is UFOmegacon.com, and of course Tina Marie and KCOR Studios are going to be out there too. So come by and say hi to KCOR Radio and Tina Marie. And that's at the MegaCon. And then the one just before, which is the 19th through the ends on the 21st, is the Beyond the Matrix, and that is in Sedona. So I believe you can definitely find it on Sci-Spy TV, and we're going to be having both of the facilitators, directors of those on the show here soon to give you a little bit more update on all of that. So, there's something, since we don't have our other party here yet to speak with us. I'm going to just explain to people a little thing about MK Ultra. So MK Ultra and the whole mind control project is a mind control program developed by the CIA, tested on the military and civilians alike. The methods are astonishing, sadistic. Its entire purpose is to traumatize the victim, and the expected result, and horrifying, is very horrifying. The fragmentation of a personality which results from the treatment is exploited for the purpose of abusers. A mind-controlled slave, as the abuser called them, can be triggered at any time to perform any action required by the handler. The compartmentalized personalities are preconditioned to respond to the specific triggers, like a software program. The handlers activate or run the programmed personality to perform their tasks. Victims have alters or personalities that are programmed into them. And many, like our guest today, is since she was like 4 years old, or maybe even, well, actually even before. So the personality to perform these tasks, victims have the alters, and they're programmed for the use of pornography, sex, black magic, rituals, sacrifice, the muling drugs, information between parties, which is like couriers, which is what I was a lot as well, performing in covert military ops, performing on top secret scientific programs such as secret space programs, spreading propaganda or disinformation, which we've heard that in the UFO field, in fact, perpetrating religious or spiritual programs, being used for experimentation, time travel, breeding, which is our guest, time travel and breeding, infiltration with others on behalf of the handlers or spies of the plant and psyche, astral operations. Now, victims do not usually have just one purpose. The programmers want to get as much as possible out of each investment, while the mass media ignores the issue. Over 2 million Americans have gone through the horrors of this programming. Now, this is from Fritz Springmeier's information, and so I just felt that it was very apropos for our guest today, and I want to now just tell you a bit about our guest. Andreas Sadek is a founder of the owner of the TraumaBasedMindControl.com. Let me get this moved up here. Okay. It's all against torturing toddlers and children, who came into the topic of MKUltra over her son, who was taken by Austrian government into governmental care not even 3 years old after his mind fracture and basic programming became visible within the horrible flashbacks. Andrea has a master's degree in comparative literature and German, as well as statistics. She is trained as a trainer, coach, counselor, and is one of the experts on toddlers and children in the MK SRA child trafficking programs. Later, since then, Andrea was targeted by Intel as the boy, her child, was able to name and recognize 72 perpetrators, with close ties to the Intel and National Security Service, of course, all in Austria. A dangerous constellation in birth country of Adolf Hitler, which is, of course, where, all of the Nazi thing, and the paper clips all basically came from that area in the Nazi operations. Either bloodlines or via regression are still in charge, cooperating with MOST and CIA in the large scale. Over years, Andrea has found out that not just her beloved son was in the MK Ultra program, but she herself, with a life that was a total MK slave biography master designed by Joseph Mengele himself. Andrea will talk about the story, which includes time travel, Mengele, Intel, Montauk, Chair, bloodlines, breeding, strategic entanglement, portal teleportation, and last but not least, her beloved son, and how to help toddlers and children as well. The Intel modus operandi is such as it is. And thank you so much, Andrea, for being on the show and what you're doing. I wanted to give people a little bit, if they didn't understand the degree of the MK Ultra program, and you are and have been in it since very young, and so tell us, when did it actually start for you, or with you, I should say?
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me.
Uh-huh.
When did it start for me? I mean, it's like it's such a weird case for me. Like I call it, in the meantime, it's like in a Tarantino movie, with these perverted characters, sadists, brutality, and so on. I came into the topic over my son when his mind fracture got visible and the basic steps of his MKUltra programming when he was around 2.5 years old, within horrible flashbacks. And I had no idea in those days that I was a MK Ultra slave myself. As well, over the first year with my son, I had no idea that SRA or MK Ultra even exists. It was 2011, and here in Austria, or actually in the German-speaking countries, no one is talking about it. No therapists are speaking out. No survivors are speaking out. So I had no idea what was going on. But what I did is I described in detail to courts, to police, to youth welfare departments what my son was reporting within these horrible flashbacks. I used also his language to depict how he was able to tell me in that age.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I always ask for detailed examinations over MRT or CT or nuclear medical examination for him. Offered myself always to get examined psychiatrically because his what he told me was most horrible, nearly unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And also that he recognized so many of the perpetrators is very unusual, uncommon. Well, Austria closed totally. Finally, they took the boy without having him examined. And around 9 months later, I finally found the scientific literature about MK Ultra and SRA. Over the years, actually, later, first I thought, well, yes, I have the ability to dissociate. This I noticed even before, but I always saw it as an ability, not a kind of disorder. And over the years, I found out that actually I'm MK Ultra myself, having a total slave biography. And the challenge over the years was, on one hand, to do all those court things with my son, to get him out, to get, or at least to get help for him. On the other hand, being hunted by intelligence, actually national and international. And on the third hand, doing research. So it was incredible busy years.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, and you know, we've been working together for quite some time about things and such. And would you say, in your case, can you explain to them, to the people, how it started? I know it's very, very deep in everything, but it actually started in a somewhat of a time travel way as well.
Yeah. My own story is very complex, and it will need much, much more time to find out all the details. But at the moment, actually for years now, it points everything to the direction that I myself was fetched out from another timeline, brought into this timeline, that I was born officially in 1971, placed into actually total Nazi MK family, of course, officially as their child, to be then programmed by master programmers. I was actually shocked to find out that Joseph Mengele was my programmer. I never considered it that I would have been programmed by him. And the same with Aribert Heim. He's a very famous Nazi doctor too. So a lot of effort was spent for my programming. What do I know so far? I didn't have much memories of my childhood at all. It was as if I wasn't there. And during meditations, regressions, I got some pieces of it. Where to start? Of course, mindful meditation, torture, a so-called official mother who is depriving you from everything. It's very, very hard to explain all those procedures. A child has to suffer every single minute, every single day. It's not just the torture. It's not just the rapes, the rituals. It's this ongoing every minute of the day, being handled, being deprived of a normal life. This is the real nightmare, in my opinion.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is the very much a nightmare. So it, I don't know. You had during the regression and such, the last few, some altars and things like that about how many numbers of these different programs that they have in you and all of these things. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing what they do. And of course, we're talking about Mengele, who was the starter at the beginning of the whole thing. He was the program. He was the master program. He was the and you know what? I do want to say something for people who are listening to this show. There are things that you'll hear today that could be triggering. So please be prepared for any kind of thing like that. Okay, because the things that were uncovered in the names and the program names and things like that might be mentioned today could possibly trigger. So be aware that it could be a triggering show. So have yourself prepared for that. So indeed, approximately, would you say, how many altars have they did they program in you, say by age 4?
I mean, we are dealing with hundreds of altars, actually.
Yes.
Most significant, what I found out until now, is the isolated altars. They're created by you are by putting you into isolation for weeks or even months to ensure that you are willing to accept that you're willing to accept false friends, false contacts, just because you're so isolated. Then we have found out I found out a lot of sadness inside me, a lot of altars that are just shocked, controlling altars, programmers that program themselves into me. It was very funny, actually, because I'm still dissociated, to find out that I have a kind of Black Sun programming or Thule programming done at the Wewelsburg, where the Nazis, where very important Nazis, meaning high-ranked Nazis, were programming themselves into my system. As a further step, they were able to access me. Also, Carol Rossin, Wernher von Braun's co-worker and spokeswoman at Fairchild Industries, was reporting about that Wernher von Braun just was accessing her during or before a speech she was holding for him when he already was in hospital because of cancer officially. I also experienced this later in my adult life. I always called it a kind of direct phone line with the Nazis or with the programmers, and it's not nice when you have the feeling they can access you or an altar and overtake in the situation. Is this imaginable what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. Well, I did not know that about Carol Rosen and Wernher von Braun, so that's very interesting about that. But it makes complete sense because he's one of the major paperclip scientists that came over. So,
yeah, I mean, she's American, and she officially was raised in America and was a teacher. And then Wernher von Braun contacted her, but most probably is that she also was programmed, exactly bred for this role she then had at Fairchild Industries.
Yes, and you know, I know we talked about some names that you're going to be giving, and part of these names that she's going to be giving is also for insurance policy, as well as her information that she has out in many different places, so that for her insurance policy as well. So, do you want to, kind of start with who you feel were, besides Mengele, your programmers and such as that? So I know you wanted to give those names out.
I mean, during meditations or during direct contact, I have the feeling that I was often taken, I call it into the other dimension. I don't know if it's off planet or Antarctica. I have concrete memories, even without sessions with Misha, about that. They take me via portal technologies there. Once in a deep meditation, for example, my bed got kind of wheels. The bed was driven into another room. Then an airlock of a military base opened. So these are concrete memories I experienced not even 1.5 years ago, 1 year ago. And during all this ritual stuff, I remember that Wewelsburg, there were high-ranked Nazis there, like Heydrich, Bormann, von Braun, even Hitler. I had to laugh tears, because if you would tell this to any Austrian psychologist or psychiatrist that you have Hitler inside you, you would be directly forwarded to psychiatric asylum and never be let out again. But it's known that at the Wewelsburg, for example, they have built their occult castle. It was directed by Himmler, who also was present, of course, and there seemingly they built a kind of time portal to be able to do ongoing programming, and doing a bit of research now over the last days. I even find out that they have their own airport there. That's 5 minutes away from the castle. I mean, that means with regular flights from and to London, Vienna, and some German cities. So they can bring any child, even officially there, without notice, and do not even need portal technologies.
Oh, I can see that, yes. Well, this is the perfect time. We are going on break right now, and we will be back with our guest, and my co-host Geraldine Orozco is going to be coming on the next break. And your questions, you can call us at 702-425-9230. You can also listen. If you have to leave, you can listen on Alexa, or you can even listen on Alexa, iTunes, and we'll be back right after this break.
You're listening to Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control.
Where reality is stranger than fiction.
There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Share your thoughts on the show by calling the hotline number at 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype, named KCOR Radio.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
More truth than governmentally allowed after this.
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds. Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
Hello, KCOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here, inviting you to join me at UFO MegaCon.
a new 7-day and 8-night immersion event from the original producers of the world's largest and longest UFO conferences in recent history. There will be 50 speakers, UFO military witness whistleblowers, award-winning filmmakers, and special guests discussing all things UFO, alien, and disclosure. UFO MegaCon will premiere never-heard-before speakers bringing you new and amazing information. There will be experiencer groups, Skywatch's musical entertainment, and even a game show with George Norrie. Join me at UFO MegaCon March 24th through 30th in Laughlin, Nevada. Truly the one and only conference you need to attend this year. Check it out at UFOMegaCon.com. That's UFOMegaCon.com.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
Idiots. A Georgia man was busted for allegedly force-feeding a goat cocaine and whiskey. Do you believe that anybody would do that to an animal?
Well, he's trying to get his date kind of warmed up, isn't he?
Sergio Guzman, 28, horse trainer, was caught on camera holding a little guy's horn while a pal shoved drugs in its nostrils.
What was the point?
Why would you give an animal drugs?
Well, if it was a horse and you wanted to win the race,
but this was a goat.
That's my point. That's why I'm asking why.
Because they're sad, you know.
I guess.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
Are you ready to go? Turn your radio.
It's showtime!
You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Break this mouth.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
Are you an experiencer, abductee, or contactee? Well, we want to hear from you.
We hear what they want us to hear.
Join the worldwide disclosure movement.
Let's get to work.
By calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline. The number is 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype named KCOR Radio. Tweet your comments anytime to KCOR using hashtag KCOR.
It's a message that the aliens are broadcasting throughout the entire universe.
Join the conversation live and share your thoughts of the show in our live chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Starseed Awakening with your lovely hosts, Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
We are the best kept secret in the universe.
Welcome back to Starseed Awakening. I'm Geraldine Orozco, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Misha Johnston. And today we're talking to the amazing Andrea Sadke regarding her mind control experiences. So we are just getting into the very deep information about this. So feel free to join into the conversation anytime by connecting with us in the chat room at kcorradio.com. You can also call into the show at 702-425-9230 or on Twitter at hashtag KCOR Radio. And just a refresher on what we are working on here. As Misha was mentioning her upcoming conferences, I'm going to be at Beyond the Matrix, and just making sure that you guys have the website for that. It's you can buy tickets at sci-fi-tv.com, and we are both, I'll be speaking there, and we're both hosting our wonderful Night Watch tour as well, so it should be an incredible event. And further, myself, I have a retreat coming up in Shasta with Alba Wyman and Blair Styra, so do stay in the loop for that one, and you can get tickets at albaweinman.com. And so we were just coming into the conversation here, and we were talking about some things. And Andrea, my question to you as we come into this second part is, did you have any notion of what was happening to you prior to getting regression?
Not much, actually. I just was wondering about a few things, a few sentences I didn't understand. So, for example, one significant sentence, I have officially a brother who is 4 years older than me. And he once said, well, whenever you were away, we had a nice family. And when you came back, everything was not nice anymore. And I was wondering, because in my memories, I always was there when he was there, being a younger child, you know. School ends early in Austria for younger children and so on. So I was wondering why he said this. And I just said, then my life felt a bit arranged. On one hand, I felt a bit placed from one point to another, from one career to another. Then I had huge success. Then I felt as if I was taken out to another thing. Then again, I had huge success. Then I was taken out, and I felt something is going on, but I could not find out what. I made an education as a coach, counselor, and trainer, and of course, there I landed in a Nazi hub, meaning it's guys connected to Nazi CIA, actually, even work in America on MK Ultra, as I know now, are offering this kind of education courses here in Austria. And of course, I landed exactly there to make my education. So it was ongoing, even doing a lot of self-experience, as we call it. I was ongoing under surveillance. And after all those years, it's statistically impossible that this is a coincidence, you know. So this I felt that I was placed from one point to another, to the next point. And sorry, one point is maybe, I'm sorry for interrupting, one point is maybe interesting for you too. This education institute where I made this education, also Americans who I was recognized them as their MK Ultra trainers. So it's a very small world in MK Ultra with MK Ultra trainers, educators, psychiatrists, and so on.
And so what I was just going to say was that I met you in 2014 when you came into my online virtual experiencer group and started talking about a lot of these things that, you know, so right from the very beginning, you started sharing things with people and talking to people about your experiences and what you had, your missing times, your, you know, I don't think you ever knew about any kind of altars and stuff, but you knew that your son was mind controlled, and you knew that they had taken him, and you knew that your husband at the time, of course, was, you know, your handler and things like that. So you would talk and share about that. I remember that. So, so would you say the regression filled in a lot of the blanks, some of the blanks, and for you of these, such as, you know, missing times when you were a child and your brother saying things like that? So it kind of pieced it together for you?
Yes, it helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. Especially on one hand being in a group and listening to the stories of others, doing basic research, and on the other hand, regression is a very soft and painless form of getting back memories. So it helped me a lot to do all those regressions with you, Misha, over the last months. Or years, actually.
Yeah, years, right. So, let me see. I wanted to... Yeah, please, Gerald, go ahead.
You were talking earlier about how you want to name names in order to have an insurance policy, and I just want to make sure that our audience is aware what that actually means when we are referring to having insurance. What exactly are we referring to, Misha and Andrea?
Well, I mean, situation is that here in Austria, or even in the German-speaking countries, maybe you have recognized this, no one is speaking out. Secret services are so brutal to those who speak out. So the whole German-speaking countries are silenced, totally silenced. Speaking out, this you might not know as Americans because you really have freedom of speech. We don't have it here, so it's very dangerous what I'm doing. On one hand, fighting for my son, mentioning the perpetrators he recognized. And on the other hand, speaking out actually for the German-speaking countries as a whole. And therefore, I handed over to Misha some papers and also to others, of course. In case something would happen to me, at least those papers could be published. And this we call insurance policy.
That's very interesting. I mean, it must be difficult to talk about these things, Andrea. And, you know what, I want to commend you for your strength and your ability to come out and talk about this. I know it's so difficult. And for all the other people around the world that are experiencing these things can connect and, you know, they can have a platform, a voice to kind of voice what they're going through.
Thank you for the appreciation. I mean, my mantra over all those years was always my beloved son, and all those small, cute toddlers and babies have to go through. So I, as an adult, can go through as well. This helped me a lot.
And that that happens so much, and is happening. You know, it's the whole pedophilia. Not just that, but that is just what they come out to the surface, but what goes on underneath, and the mind control and the torture of these children and the programming from such young ages and such, that you're bringing that out in the open in a place where it's happening it's so prevalent there. You know, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the, well, like I know that Luki, your son, you started seeing right away some of the things, like he fainted by being shown some pictures and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about that so other people can maybe see these symptoms as being symptomatic of such things happening, especially in the German-speaking countries?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of knowledge I put out on the website for free. How to recognize the symptoms of toddlers and children, even in 3 languages, in English, in German, and also it was translated into Norwegian. Because it's quite visible when it's horrible. You need really a lot of strength to be capable to bear it, because it's unbearable. And even psychiatrists specialized on this topic, who are working with adult clients, claim that they would need a therapy to be able to listen to their stories, what they suffered as children. So it's really, this makes the topic, this is the best hiding place, in my opinion, because it's so horrible. No one dares to go into the details, into the depth, because it's nearly unbearable. You cannot sleep for weeks. You're shivering for days or hours at least. And then you start, it's even worse, you start to recognize children on the street being in the program, and you cannot do anything, because even if you would call the police, they would claim the child has nothing. But how can you recognize those children? They are
Just give a couple, 3 ways of how you can recognize.
Okay. They have a tremendous tension within them. They try to cover it either via smiling, like a bit robotic smile, or via dissociation. This is one point. Other point is they are stopping to play. They're not playing anymore. They're pretending to play.
Mm-hmm.
Second point and third point. What's the most important thing you can recognize as a stranger? Well, if you know the children a bit, you see that they do not have memories anymore of things that happened. So whenever you talk to them, you realize the child is repeating a story that was trained with him or her, but has something is wrong with the story because it's a kind of learned repetition, especially on younger childs. You can recognize this. And of course, they have a lot of fear of being beaten, tortured. And when you spend a bit more time with them, soon flashbacks come out. And then you hear the most crazy stories you ever will have heard. For example, one of the most perverted ones was my son got the flashbacks holding a toilet brush. And I was wondering, at first I thought maybe they have beaten him with that, until over weeks and months he was able to tell me that they put the end of the toilet brush in his bottom and penetrated him. So they're torturing the children with very weird objects. To then, if someone finds out, first you have to believe the child. Then you have to talk about it. And it's not easy to go to prosecution office and tell the prosecution office, listen, this happened with a toilet brush to my son. So it's always these horrible crimes, as they did already in the concentration camps. When you remember the experimentations of Joseph Mengele, when he was seeing together the twins, for example. They did that as a facade to hide their professional research, because everyone was so shocked thinking of cute twins being put together, and behind that they did, of course, professional and cold research. And they're working with this principle always, I found out in the Sade case, to overdo it to such a perverted extent that either you just can cry or say, no, that cannot be true.
So, Andrea, this is such a, impactful thing to discuss here. And so what are some of the signs for the mothers that are observing this kind of activity within their children? Were there physical scarring or any physical, signs that this was occurring to the child? And were you able to go to the doctor to kind of review what was happening? Or, how were you able to manage this as a mother?
This is the most difficult part, because he had once bruises or his finger had a bruise, but there are no visible injuries in principle. So they're using a lot of white torture, meaning waterboarding, and he was already, I don't know, we call it clean, meaning he was able to go on his body on his own. So I didn't check his bottom, and it's very, very difficult to find out. But what, as a mother, you see is that there are extreme mood swings in the child. My son got ill, very ill, extremely ill, and I was running to the doctor with him at least twice a week and asking, please tell me what's going on with him. And the doctor says, oh, that's normal in this age. That's normal in this age. And he got always antibiotics. Now I know, of course, to heal the inner wounds, meaning his anus and so on, but I had no idea because he did not dare to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I then decided to, because of course I saw that something serious was going on, and I closed down everything, meaning I took him out of the kindergarten. I observed him even more and more and more. Then I made a break from the visitations with his so-called father, and then all of a sudden everything was breaking out, and he had his flashbacks one after the next, and at least the silence was broken, you know.
And so what triggered the flashbacks for him? What commenced all of that? Was it the visitations, or what was it that initiated that?
The flashbacks were caused, for example, one was he was crying and all of a sudden looking in the mirror we had in the flat, of course. This caused, for example, an additional flashbacks. They are working with mirrors. Mm-hmm. And on flashbacks, everything they use can cause a flashback. For example, the toilet brush caused them horrible flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in the toilet, for example, and he had, I don't know the word now, but this also caused a flashback because it reminded him that something was in his bottom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This could cause tears for hours to convince him that this is normal, no one is hurting his bottom anymore. Or even they placed, for example, in front of a flat, a garden gnome was placed there.
Uh-huh.
And this caused a flashback, and he was convinced that he was beaten by the garden gnome.
The garden gnome?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, a figure, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So they can use anything, everything can trigger the child. You just have to be very observative, ready to look later what could have happened. And what I love, of course, is that perpetrators, you don't know how many perpetrators are present at such rituals, for example, especially on the basic mind fracture. And they love to arrange visits with the child on the street, on the playground. And your child gets a flashback or is changing his personality actually already.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no idea what's going on because normally you don't know the guys, you know.
Well, yes. So the child gets triggered by words, like you said, in the playground and such, that changes the alters completely.
Yeah, or not even the words, but the faces of the perpetrators. Those children, it's also known in scientific literature, it's a kind of survival mechanism to recognize, to memorize the faces of perpetrators because there are certain perpetrators that are repeating some actions. There were some Johns, so he knew he will be dressed in a ballet dress, for example, and raped. Mm-hmm. But there are also perpetrators who were present at the basic ritual abuse, so to say. So just seeing them causes a change of his personality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And alter comes out then.
Yeah.
And I know you showed us during one of the groups a video of his very unusual playing manner, like you said, pretend to play. It was very unusual. It wasn't like a child's play at all. So that was another interesting thing. So, and so that happened at 3 years old, your divorce and then the visitations and such. So what happened after that? When you said, and then everything else happened, of course, when your ex-husband took him, right? So if you can tell us a little bit more about how that happened and everything.
Yeah. That to start here. The ex-husband is a Secret Service official who was sent to pretend to be my soulmate. And I was deeply in love with him. I was pregnant soon, very looking forward to having this family I always wished to have. And all of a sudden, it completely changed. I tried to save the marriage. And until I found out, no, it's not possible, because you cannot stay married with a Secret Service husband who doesn't want, who just had to fulfill his job, you know. Mm-hmm. So we divorced, and over 1 year, I was driving with my son to his so-called father's house, because he wanted my son to have his father, of course, because in those days I had no clue what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then he wanted to have him on his own, and I thought, well, yes, I built up this nice relationship between the both. They should go and have fun, you know. And from the first visit on, actually, he had him alone. All his mind fracture started, and correlating, he started to become very ill. He was not able, he got high fever, one infection after the next, as I told you before. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what's going on. So I just handed him over to his father again and again and again, just practically to be able to clean the flat, for example. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize that ever again and again and again and again, my son was tortured and programmed. Mm-hmm. It's well hidden. And as Luki regressed in his ability to speak and show me things, and was frightened and threatened, of course. Now,
I do have to take this time for the break. So I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt you. We'll take from that when you come back. All right, we're going to be going on our little bit longer break. We're going to have a news. And so you're listening to Starseed Awakening with my co-host Geraldine Orozco, myself, Misha Johnston, and Tana Newberry is out today at a psychic fair. Good luck to you, Tana, and we'll be right back.
You've been listening to Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
A new kind of show.
Live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
For more information on Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco, and the Starseed Awakening radio show.
All right, listen up, everybody. Listen up, please.
Visit
www.starseedawakening.org.
Until next week, remember, we're all visitors to this time and place. We're just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, learn, grow, love, and then we return home.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
In your mind you have capacities, you know, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to say. Calling occupants of interplanetary craft. Calling occupants of interplanetary most extraordinary craft.
3, 2, 1.
In the world of ufology, there are many levels with some secrets hidden so deep you may never know the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
But worldwide, there is a movement.
Are you listening?
Millions of people are awakening, connecting, and sharing their experiences. We are all spiritual souls having a human experience.
These are the forces of the universe.
The next step to disclosure starts with you. Welcome to Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
Welcome back to Starseed Awakening. I'm Geraldine Orozco with my co-host Misha Johnston, and Tana Newberry is out today. So feel free to join into the conversation anytime by connecting with us in the chat room at kcorradio.com. You can also call into the show at 702-425-9230 or on Twitter at hashtag KCOR Radio. And please be sure to put in your donations as we thrive off your wonderful support and help us bring some amazing people into our interviewees here, like our wonderful guest, Andrea Sadke, here today with us. And so as we come back into the conversation, Andrea, I'd love to ask you a little bit more about I know, I mean, I've read your story and your background and what's been happening. And my question to you is, dealing with all of these very traumatizing experiences, I know that you as well became aware of being involved as an MK Ultra. Can you tell us a little bit about how that began? How did that start for you to become aware that you were also involved in this program?
The difficulty here was that I have an excellent programming, which is extremely stable. I finally realized it in Misha's group when a colleague and friend came in, Penny Bradley, when I changed into a super soldier altar. There I realized, yes, it's true, you are MK Ultra. And I noticed small changes. For example, when I'm ill, then I look most bright, meaning I have the programming. No one is allowed to realize what's going on with you. So the better you feel or the worse you feel, the more shining and bright you look. This is all programmed. Then I was a lot of intel agents actually tried to trigger me, or satanic gang stalkers tried to trigger me. And then I realized, yes, they know the codes, they know what they try to trigger you with hand signs, this and that. So I got lots of pieces to realize that it's doing something in my system. And last but not least, it sounds a bit of too much ego, but the best proof that I'm programmed is that I'm still alive, because actually without being programmed, I would have had a breakdown. Mm-hmm. Because you cannot bear this suffering of your child, you being hunted by intel all over the world for years now. Dealing with this topic, this would be too much. Sorry for being so open, but this would be too much for someone who is not programmed. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe explain it more, Misha? Because I think you understand it.
Well, no, I think you did an excellent job. I mean, when you get into the degrees of the programs that, I'm mind-boggled by what I'm finding out in the regressions from you. That the depth of the programming and the altars, and the depth of the altars and the backups and the backups, and it's just amazingly horrific and terrible all at the same time. It's that and I would say for sure that. As far as like you've already gone through the suicide programming, so you passed through that. And since they seem not to be able to, well, I don't know if they're adding more programs or not, but I just kind of feel that you are just getting so much better. I mean, from 5 years, whatever it is, years ago, or like 3 years ago that we started working together and such, I just see that your whole appearance is looking better. Your English is, of course, better. Just everything is better. And I don't see now the program they did with you, like I've not seen with other people, is you don't. If you do switch in and out of altars, it's very, very hard to tell Very, very hard to tell. So for so long, I never ever thought you had any alters. But then, of course, we found that out. Very different information. So yours started at what age would you say?
My programming.
Yeah, I know it was off
my
planet,
program.
but yes, but what age?
I mean, my program started immediately after birth, actually after baptism. There I had the first memories with kind of satanic ritual abuse as a not even 1 month old baby. This I remember, and it was just ongoing my whole life. Still, the most important pieces are, meaning this daily procedure is missing. But I have memories of being on holidays in Croatia with my family around elementary school and being there in a kind of Russian additional programming. Still more and more, Misha and me are trying to find out what for I'm programmed. So seemingly the purpose of all is to, I was bred for this role I'm having now. The case is used on an extremely large extent for strategic entanglement, meaning in Austria, for example, it's so obvious that my son needs desperately help and a safe place and medicine and therapies and whatsoever. Everyone is ignoring it, so you get entangled. Lots of doctors, physicians, teachers, psychiatrists, because all are silent. And the same with, or using him for rituals, for example. This is also an entanglement machinery. And on the other hand, me being hunted actually around the whole globe. I was living in London, I was in Asia, I was in Switzerland, I was in Norway now, and always back to Austria. You can entangle quite a lot of guys with this, with me being hunted, with my son being tortured. And seemingly, as far as I found out, I was bred for this role, and it seems as if the Nazi programmers would like to sell my programming as a kind of prototype pilot, you know. Mm-hmm. We will find out over the next years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you talk about being chased, around the globe, that was different people came into your life and became your handlers, or tried to become your handlers. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, the first row of Secret Service officials wanted to have my case files and my evidence, of course. The second row of agents wanted to prevent me from publishing something or go public, and the third range was there to keep me into a kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome, because you are traumatized when your beloved son is openly tortured. Actually, even after government took him, I was allowed to see him, and they always showed me the tortured child with injuries then. So this is a very easy way to keep you in dissociation or post-traumatic stress. So these agents were there to keep me in this state. And then we have here something that's called operative psychology. Secret Service agents have to learn it. For example, most significant, the torture night of my son was contacted me, of course, as a helper. He didn't say he was Secret Service. And you sit then with having coffee and talking about how to help your son, sitting there with the torture night of him, you know. And that's destroying you on a soul level, and it's very dangerous. It's a very dangerous method, because you really are close to getting crazy without knowing. And I was told that many mothers are landing in psychiatrists in my situation, or are even committing suicide. And I'm serious on that. It's nearly unbearable what they all do. Or they just come in, trigger you into an altar, rape you, fetch you for rituals. You have no idea where, when, what. Or you wake up and you have semen between your legs. It's quite a sadistic, bestial game they're playing with you.
Yes, and we've had several of those women come into the group only to just disappear. And they come in, they talk about the same kind of thing, and they're all in that area where you're living in, or have lived through those places. And so, I just wanted to confirm that seems to be happening to so many women. And I don't know. It's really hard how to help them, and I commend you for bringing this out, and especially in such a place as where you live. So I think Geraldine had a question.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this. It's just extremely interesting and very important that we discuss, which is your experiences that you had in reference to being Black Sun or Schwarze Sonne. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And so there was a reference in regards to the Black Sun, and that was the Black Sun is a symbol that was employed in a post-Third Reich by neo-Nazis in some occult practices that they were doing. So can you tell us, and please elaborate a little bit more, explain to our audience what that is, and how did you find out that was your involvement, and what did that entail, Andrea?
It was during, I found out during a regression with Misha. Mm-hmm. We found the command center of my programming. First, they just saw boots and Nazi boots, Nazi insignia on uniforms. And then all of a sudden I realized that I'm lying there in this famous hall at Wewelsburg on this Black Sun symbol. And I knew that it's very important for the Nazis in their occult universe they built, actually. And there I realized how they were doing the programming, at least the outcome of it, that they on one hand can take out your energy or can use your energy or your abilities, and on the other hand that they can access you. From the symbolism of the Black Sun, I mean, there's so much published. It's for me not. I'm very careful to do research in the occult because I made the experience that many of the sources are spelled to be open. So I'm very careful on researching that. Mm-hmm. Too much, I have the feeling it can change your character. At the moment, I don't have the resources and energies to go too deep into the occult. Because I'm afraid of that, of the powers that are laying within just normal sentences you read in the internet. I often made the experience that they are well protecting their own knowledge.
I understand, yes, and I understand your reservation to want to look into all of that. Now, I know that you were discussing about an experience that as a toddler you were laying on a black sun. You were talking about it being of green color, surrounded by 12 windows and pillars, and on every pillar close to the sun symbolized a very high-ranked Nazi in boots and uniform. So that was very interesting. And now I know that you mentioned later on in 2018 in December, you were discussing an attack that you had experienced by a direct energy weapon. Andrea, I think it's important that we kind of discuss that, and how did you recognize that, what that was, and how did that begin? How did that start for you?
The most massive attack actually started, I never forget it, it was 30th of May 2015, a few days after my first interviews with Misha. I got attacked, I think it was a laser weapon. I was hardly able to talk. My brain felt as if it was melted, burning. I had it was enormous pain for weeks, even months, and I have the feeling it still is not healed yet. And over all those years, they are mostly attacking my brain. And the last attack from December, it caused a concussion. So concussions are also used in MK Ultra after all this programming, after all this torture. They are caused deliberately because they are the best remedy to make the victims or the slaves forget what had happened. They can cause this now with these direct energy weapons, and they're doing it a lot. Especially, I can say that, and it's always this. Just I'm in the circle of healing, finding out, getting memories, getting attacked by direct energy weapons. Misha is watching this for years now. She can confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over again. The last one caused a concussion. I was 2 weeks in bed and was not able to work or do anything else.
Yeah, I remember you came to a group once and you had a towel on your head because the energy weapon had been burning your head so you kept putting ice towels on your head to try to keep it from happening or soften the pain that was happening with the burning of the head.
Yeah. And I have to take care after all those years. I mean, I hope I can heal it, but of course there's the imminent danger that your neurological system gets so damaged that you cannot heal it anymore.
That's very interesting. And Andrea, I'm so sorry that you went through all of that. I know that you have other experiences as well. But the question is, now, discussing some of this ritual practices that they do, is there a connection between sexual trauma, sexual abuse, and signing of contracts or their abilities to perform certain rituals? Is there a connection between that? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you for the question. It's very important. Yeah. Yes, there is a connection. First, I was wondering why also girls are raped anally, meaning sodomized, not just boys, because it's not the most aesthetical way to rape someone anally. Sorry to be so open. And over the years, I found out that they are breaking down the victims over this kind of sodomizing to then to seal contracts. And they are using this mechanism, rape, sodomizing, and sealing of contracts all over and again and again and again, especially on children.
Very interesting. And so are you aware of the relationship between this the sexual abuse, or do you know why that is? Why is there that connection? What does sexual abuse have to do with these contractual agreements?
I mean, it's the most direct form of bringing a child into dissociation.
Okay.
As well as splitting their minds. Mm-hmm. And you have to think historically. Sorry again to be so open, but this kind of weapon you have with you when you're a man, you know?
Yes.
You don't need anything else. And so I think I mean, we know satanic ritual abuse or even MK Ultra preform or however we call this crime. I mean, it's not an invention of the CIA. It's not an invention of the Nazis. It's there for millennia. Mm-hmm. So, what had guys 1,000 years ago in the forest with them? You know, I try to think always practically, and that's quite logically then, yeah. Or there's always water, so waterboarding is also so important. Mm-hmm. And also very important is the SRA rituals, the torture rituals.
Mm-hmm. About that.
Many therapists stop there. What I think is extremely harmful and dangerous, to be honest. Because most often...
I'm sorry, Andrea. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you elaborate? What does SRA stand for? And then please do go into that experience.
It's satanic or sadistic ritual abuse.
Okay.
Meaning this is the part, the satanic part, the occult part, where the victims are tortured, but more on a ritualistically basis. Meaning there are oaths, contracts, agreements made, even with backups, and you quite hear often about SRA or satanic ritual abuse, Satanists in hoods or brotherhoods, and this is more known than MK Ultra. And what I found out, or many are finding out actually, is that all these SRA rituals, demonic rituals, satanic rituals, after they are done, most often in the regression or in your memories, you see the Nazi doctors come in to program you. So this is most often a preparation for the governmental MK Ultra programming. When the victims, the child victims, are completely dissociated already.
Wonderful. I see. Very interesting. Well, oh my goodness, you have shared so many important things with us, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about what does that entail. We're going to be taking a short break. More with our guest, Andrea Sadge, here with your questions in just a bit. You are listening to Starseed Awakening with my co-host Misha Johnston. Tana is out, and we are here on KCOR Digital Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control.
Where reality is stranger than fiction.
There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Share your thoughts on the show by calling the hotline number at 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype named KCOR Radio.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
More truth than governmentally allowed after this.
We interrupt this program to annoy you and make things generally irritating.
At the end of the day, we turn the lights down in the KCOR studio.
Oh, sweet.
And crank up the hottest club songs from around the world.
This is the future.
The Grind, mixed by Tina Marie, your Vegas vixen of the high desert.
What about the body? What kind of body?
Good body, nice body.
Every night from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pacific. The best 3 hours of commercial-free music.
New music first.
It's time to stand up and dance your ass off. The Grind, nightly and exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Come on, it's kind of hot.
1, 2, 3, 4.
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds. Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
The Fenton Files, where it's all connected.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
Come explore a universe full of possibilities. Every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Fenton Files. Go where no other show has gone before.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there.
Whether it be UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, or even consciousness, your host, Lorian Fenton, has a file for that. The Fenton File. Fenton File. Your journey to the truth is but a file away. Live Monday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Fenton Files.
Incredibly intense.
Where truth is just waiting to be discovered.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your captain. I'd like to welcome you on Jackpot Airlines Flight 1610, service to Lost Wages.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, apparently, they need a reality check done Vegas style.
Vegas, 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 Vegas.
Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Biggest star in the world, bigger than Britney and Christina put together.
If it's happening on the Vegas Strip, you'll know about it here first.
You are a dirty little fun haver.
Join Jessica Johns as she explores and goes behind the scenes of what's hot and what's not. From the best entertainment Vegas has to offer to national celebrity gossip.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Jessica has her finger on the heartbeat of the city, and she's waiting to share it with you. Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. She does Vegas right.
Yeah, baby.
Are you an experiencer, abductee, or contactee? Well, we want to hear from you.
We hear what they want us to hear.
Join the worldwide disclosure movement.
Let's get to work.
By calling the KCOR Digital Radio Network hotline. The number is 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype, named KCOR Radio. Tweet your comments anytime to KCOR using hashtag KCOR.
It's a message that the aliens are broadcasting throughout the entire universe.
Join the conversation live and share your thoughts of the show in our live chat room at www.kcorradio.com. Now, back to Starseed Awakening with your lovely hosts, Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
We are the best kept secret in the universe.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Starseed Awakening with my co-host Geraldine Orozco, and myself, Tana Newberry, is out, and our guest, Andrea Sadik, and we were talking about more of the experiences with Luki. So I wanted to go in and ask you. I know that you're very concerned about Luki, and how is it going with him, and also how is it going with the court case to try to get Luki back, and I know that they've done some things back at you because you started this court case with the so what is happening?
Well, what is happening with Luki? It's a weird situation. On one hand, I'm prosecuted by 4 perpetrators, which are mentioned on the network website, traumabasmindcontrol.com, as perpetrators. Here I'm threatened to be jailed, imprisoned, and so on. And on the other hand, I'm not allowed to know officially where my son is living via a court ruling. But last summer, I got to know that he's living close to Graz at his official grandma, meaning my official mother. Mm-hmm. And there I saw already that he's highly dissociating, that he's not in a good state. And half a year later, I received a letter this January 2019 from him with a picture of him, where I got to see that his adult teeth are completely missing already. So this can be caused via torture or more probably via electroshocks. If you overdo it, they are losing their teeth. So I wrote to court and explained them again what is MK Ultra about the Sadik case, asking them desperately to finally contact at least a specialist for SRA to understand the SADA case, and to tell me how Lucky was. And for over a month, I did not receive any information about his well-being or not well-being. And I'm how's it called? I'm crazy because I'm so worried about him. What will happen next to him?
Right. And they took actual visitation away from you how long ago?
Well, the visitation was actually never a visitation because it was always supervised visitation.
Mm-hmm.
And during these visitations, they always showed me the tortured, injured child. So it was a kind of bestial game on one hand to show me what's done with the child. And when I left, I told Lucky, your mommy doesn't love you. She doesn't want you to have anymore. So you belong to us.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015, in summer 2015, they placed him into an isolation tank, sensory deprivation tank.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see my completely pale son in a record summer. So every child has brown skin, suntan skin.
Mm-hmm.
And he was dissociating in front of me. The supervisor looked the other way. And then I decided, no, I'm not going to see my son as a prisoner. I will fight for him because also then there would have been a point where I would have broken down.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I did not see him.
Okay. And so you're able to communicate via mail, not email, but mail and such.
No,
as
it's forbidden. Court ruled that it's forbidden that I write him. Court ruled that it's forbidden that he's writing me.
Mm-hmm.
Everything would be stored at social service, and he could read it when he's 18.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they are allowing you. Well, you don't know for sure. You're sending presents all the time. You don't know whether he's get them. He did finally send. You finally got a letter back from social services that he did get his last present. So.
His last present, yes, but presents before he did not get. I asked him, have you received this and this and this? And he looked at me, no, I didn't, or yes, but this gave me another person, but not you. But Misha had a great idea to ask for a written confirmation for him. And this time it worked, so he received his reflex camera for his 10th birthday 1 week ago.
Mm-hmm. So that for his 10th birthday, folks. That started at 3 years old, and it's been going on this many years. So sad. So very, very sad. And there was one other question I wanted to ask you about this, and now I forgot it. Yes. You've been. I don't know if you want to tell that. Yeah. How do you know how he looks and everything? You've been, right? I don't know if you want to say how you know. So we won't even talk about that because that would give them too much information. All right, but there is something I want to say. I want to say that I was also encourage her to get a GoFundMe or one of those whatever she can do in Austria, I think she can do it through any place on the internet. But I encourage her that she should get a GoFundMe because she's already exhausted all her money for any money that she has for her lawyers and lost lawyers and cannot get any honest lawyers. So what we're asking is there a lawyer out there that can do international law or anything like that, but if not, then a GoFundMe for her to have the legal that real legal help that she needs, and to have someone to stand up for her, because she has no one there. And in turn, I think it would start a precedent that they'd have to think twice if they did this with other kids. And I'm sure they're doing it already. I know they are from our people in the group that have come, the women in the group that have come. So anyway, I've encouraged her to get this GoFundMe, and I hope that everyone helps her out.
I will try it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so maybe, once we get that going, we can post it on our page and people can find it there. But now changing a little bit into another deeper subject that you wanted to discuss, Andrea, and that was talking about regressed Nazis or age regressed Nazis, or can you tell us a little bit about that? I know that was something that was important that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah. It's a very important issue. I learned it from Americans, American whistleblowers, for example, in many interviews with Carrie Cassidy, but also with others. They are mentioning, for example, that Joseph Mengele is still living in New York, looking like in his 50s or 60s. And we have too many whistleblowers claiming that it cannot be a fantasy of a single person. And many also say that in the German-speaking countries, age-regressed Nazis are still in charge, either as judges, as teachers, as whatever. And I can confirm it as far as I can do it, that even in the Sadek case, in our case, there are a lot of regressed Nazis, as it seems, or at least offsprings of them. We have a family judge that is a lookalike of Heydrich. We have even my official mother is a lookalike of the wife of Hans Kammler, who was the chief of wonder weapons, of the Nazi wonder weapons. We have them everywhere. Either it's Lebensborn, meaning the breeding facilities where the high-ranked Nazis also were urged to father children, or we have the regression issue here. And it's very serious because the country actually still is in charge of the Nazis of the Third Reich.
So you yourself have some situations where you were in an age regression or that have come up. Do you want to talk about that?
I don't have enough memories. I just have the feeling that I was brought from another timeline. I just see here too many lookalikes from former Nazis, or in Germany it's even discussed if Angela Merkel has the DNA from Adolf Hitler, or if Foreign Minister Heiko Maas is a genetical clone from Adolf Eichmann. We have here really big issues, and they're not far away. Like you are seeing it in America, we have them actually quite around the next corner.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And here also, this is very important. As far as my research was going on, I'm sure that Luki's official father is not his father. This is very important. I asked courts at least 10 times for a fatherhood test, and they either lost it or just ignored it. And this is very important for my son, as I think that his father is one of those regressed Nazis, and he therefore is a kind of sacrifice moonchild.
Yes, because prior to you had a memory of a ritual abuse that you were taken to, which would have worked out as that Lukey was not in any genetics with your husband. It was that prior. If you want to tell about that ritual, I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean, it's nothing. They have their orgies and their sexual things, but in terms of breeding, they're not interested in sex. So they just come with the genetics and inseminate you very technically with that, and maybe rape you for sealing the contracts, but it's nothing sexual.
Right. So they all wanted to put their genetics there. Yeah. Basically, yes, okay, yeah. So it's some kind of a bloodline thing that's going on as well, and you have in your notes here about Nikola Tesla. Is there something you want to go into about Nikola Tesla and?
This is for me. It's very interesting as a passionate researcher. The city of Graz is very important. It's in south of Austria, 2 hours away from Vienna. Uh-huh. I grew up there. Arnold Schwarzenegger grew up there. There, Lukey is now, and they took away Lukey in the city, and they have a long history of Freemasonry there. As well, the SS Medical Academy for Nazi physicians of the elite SS Nazi physician was brought there in 1940. And on top of that, I found out that Nikola Tesla was studying there at university, and there was a quarrel between him and his professor. After that, he quit his studies and went over Hungary, then to America. And it could be the possibility that he already was discussing with his professor there about free energy, about portal technologies, because Graz since then was always the capital in terms of technical equipment. One high-tech company after the next is opening. The technical university is enlarging on a extremely large extent. So, and of course, we have there the SS Academy of Nazi physicians, the whole technical equipment, military, unofficial military bases, as well as UFO sightings. So there is a very important, if not one of the most important, MK Ultra hubs in the German-speaking countries.
Well, some things we didn't know.
Yeah. But most of the things I learned from you Americans. So Americans researcher are better researchers in terms of Nazi history than our natives one. So this points to the fact that we are actually not allowed to do research here.
Okay. Did you have a question here, Geraldine? I'll just keep going.
Well, in regards to the control that you're dealing with in your country, Andrea, how can other people in your community that are experiencing this navigate that control system? And how have you done it yourself? How did you come across Misha's group to begin with?
Good question.
I was not on social media. Just did my university research. I was digging again into the Nazi stuff I knew already from my studies. And then on Facebook, I soon found Misha, asking her about my son, about how to help, about the modus operandi of the crime. Misha helped me a lot with understanding the whole procedure in involuntary cases, because you must not forget that most of the parents are voluntarily giving over their children to Secret Service. because they promise your son, your daughter will be then an Intel officer, a high-ranked military officer, a high-ranked politician, a high-ranked judge, and so on. And Misha helped me a lot to see the structure in the involuntary cases. And it's, I mean, I feel over the last years, I also told Misha, it felt like being a fighter pilot, you know, finding out something, maybe publishing it, then being targeted again from Intel. I mean, I lived in 4 different countries. I lived in Norway, in Asia, in Switzerland, and in London over months. It was always on the run, sleeping with my clothes, to be on one hand prepared and on the other hand to hope that it would prevent me from being raped. It was just a fight, and I start to realize that it's not normal, because doing this all those years, I was so in shock. I so desperately wanted to help my son and all those other toddlers. I did not take care of me, did not realize how I'm living actually.
Amazing. Amazing. Misha, please continue.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, I know I'd like you to go ahead and tell people, we've got 5 minutes left, and I'd like you to tell people how they can reach you, your email, I mean, your not your email. Of course, I think you have that on there, but your website, and how interesting that your website came up when you're Austrian. So you tell about when your website came up, because it was taken down for a long time, and it magically appeared when we had a visitor here in when Trump had a visitor. Remember, you told me about that.
Yeah, this was interesting. Yeah, Facebook censored me, especially on the Sade case, shortly before our very young Chancellor Sebastian Kurz was visiting your President Donald Trump this week. So everything was blocked. They could not communicate about the Sade case, about the visit. It was very, very interesting actually. Yeah. And after the visit, or actually during the visit, so when nothing could have happened, no communication was possible, all of a sudden everything reappeared. So they are, even if they're not showing themselves, they are having a very close look on my website, on my Facebook site. Yeah.
And I find it very interesting. I've just got to say this. I tried for so long, and I kept getting problems with Facebook, not able to get your event up over and over again, error. And I finally found a way around it and did it. But then I found out that it wasn't in the list of events again. I found that out last night. And so it's just like, well, I couldn't understand it. So evidently your name has been targeted on Facebook or something.
I mean, this is when I entered Facebook for the first time in autumn 2014. I had within a few weeks or days, actually, I had 1,000 followers, friends, whatsoever. And then Facebook took me down, so I started with 0 again. And I accepted the situation that they are very eager to keep me small, that I cannot reach too many. I'm allowed to do my work. Yeah, I'm allowed to do my work, yes, but I should not reach many.
That's exactly what they do. And I'm going to say that right here, that Facebook does that because they did the same thing to me. I'm only allowed to send out 50 invites. Occasionally, if a different guest comes in and I put in, then it's different. But but my experiencer groups, I'm only allowed 50 people. I figured some ways around it. So they are definitely silencing people talking about these issues. And I think that it's time everybody started asking them why.
I mean, the point is, in the Sade case, if I'm allowed to say this, there is so much evidence. My son even got castrated, meaning his inner genitals were cut out. And so there's so much evidence with names, with perpetrators, with connection to politicians, with connections to Secret Service, with connections to physicians, psychiatrists, and so on. So it could be a precedent case, a test case, and I think they are so afraid because you must not forget, look, he was 2 years, 2.5 years old.
We have to close, honey.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Please tell us your website real quick.
Traumatizedmindcontrol.com.
Okay, and we have next week, we have Solaris Blue Raven. You've been listening to Starseed Awakening with our guest, Andrea Sadik. Check her out. Thank you, Geraldine. Well, thank you, Tana. Not Tana.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
You've been listening to Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco.
A new kind of show.
Live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
For more information on Misha Johnston, Tana Newberry, and Geraldine Orozco, and the Starseed Awakening radio show.
All right, listen up, everybody. Listen up, please.
Visit
www.starseedawakening.org.
Until next week, remember, we're all visitors to this time and place. We're just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, learn, grow, love, and then we return home.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.